G'day. It's time to down your unders. Review and dissection of content from some of the sharpest minds in the game. Hosted by Adam Camilleri. Art of War. Down Under.
Hello, everybody in the big wide world of the 41st millennium, and welcome to another episode of Art of War Down Under. My name is always Adam Camilleri. This is episode 224. This is the third week of Grotmas on the review platter that is going to be ongoing throughout January, more than likely, possibly into February, depending on how many weeks I have to take off for LVO. And speaking about LVO, are you going, Mark?
I am indeed.
Mad lad. I might try and get you on stream. But anyway.
All right, I'll be happy to be there.
You already heard the dulcet tones of our Deathwatch expert, Mark. How do you? I know I've asked you this on the show before. Is it Hertel or Hertel?
Hertel.
Hertel. Easy. I've heard it said otherwise. Mark Hertel, welcome to the show, mate. The absolute stalwart of the kill teams.
Thank you.
The unit, not the game. And we're here for the first segment of this week's episode, and you're going to be having Mark and myself reviewing the Deathwatch Index. Pretty much we'll be running through it from top to bottom as normal, refreshing you guys if you do not know what Deathwatch used to do because you deleted it from your brains when you thought they got deleted from the game. And then I've also got already recorded a brilliant segment with Jeremy Martino for Imperial Agents and Folger Pyles joining us for the Custodes dreadnought goodness review after that. But Mark, Deathwatch is back, baby. How do you feel?
Back. I feel great. I loved my Deathwatch back when I was running them at Nova and a little bit before then. And I just feel they're a lot stronger than they were before. They're really solid, and I'm glad to be able to play my boys in black.
Yeah, me too. I feel like it was very ham-fisted what happened to Deathwatch with them just being deleted.
Look how they massacred my boy.
Well, they didn't. I was always of the opinion they didn't need to delete what they had already. Like, they didn't delete Grey Knights when they put them into Imperial Agents, so why would they delete Deathwatch when they put them in Imperial Agents? At least leave them where they were and then, just give them something different. So yeah, it was always weird to me that the Deathwatch got, removed, taken out back. But now they are back, and I think better than ever, to be honest, especially in the meta at the moment. I think they're extremely well placed. What's your hot takes, mate, on Deathwatch into this burgeoning end of year?
My hot take is Deathwatch is definitely something to look out for. Even though Marines got that really sweet buff with the personal wound, I think Deathwatch really utilizes the best of the Marine kits and basically gives you a really high punching power. They may feel like they're mainly a shooting army, but if you build them right, you've got like super powerful shooting and really good melee as well.
Yeah, they feel like one of the most well-rounded, if not possibly the most well-rounded Marine faction right now. And that is a big thing to say with Marines coming out strong everywhere. But let's jump into this review. So I'm pretty much just going to bounce things off Mark, guys, as we go through. We're going to review the actual detachment in its entirety as we would any other detachment. But as far as the army rule, mate, has anything changed?
A little bit. So basically, the first thing you got when you go through the index, you got the kill teams. So basically, that just means like as opposed to like a normal unit, you go out for the kill team. You go off of the majority toughness of the unit, not just the highest toughness of a model in the unit.
Yeah.
So basically, but it only really matters for one unit, and that's the Talon Strike Squad because they have the 6 grav assault intercessors, or the 6 grav intercessors, and the 6 assault intercessors.
Yeah, correct. Apart from that, it really doesn't touch the size, yeah? Because you can't really do the mixed Terminators and Tacticus units anymore, can you?
Not anymore. Yeah,
exactly right. All right, jumping down, Black Spear Task Force Detachment Rule. If your army can include just studies Deathwatch units, we can't include any others drawn from any other chapters, with the exception of Kill Team Cassius, which is included which is now only listed in the Imperial Agents book. You can't take any other agents, I think.
Yeah.
Yep. And so any agent of the Imperium Deathwatch unit, so you can still take assassins, my bad. And then just a huge list of things you can't take. Assault squads with jump packs, attack bikes. Not that you can take attack bikes anyway. Devastator squad, land speeder storms, relic terminators, yada yada yada.
A lot of those are just a lot of those are legends anyways. So it's
exactly right.
Can't do that anyways.
Kind of made no sense to list them here. But here we go, the actual detachment rule, because that was just restrictions. The mission tactics is pretty much very similar to, say, with the Penitent Host from Sisters of Battle, or, say, with the new Librarius Conclave. You can pick a different tactic for your army at the start of your command phase. In addition, you also get Oath of the Moment, of course, because you are a Space Marine. And then all units in your army is affected thus. So we've got the Furor tactics, which is all your weapons get sustained hits 1. Malleus is all your weapons get lethal hits. And Pergatus is all your weapons get precision on a critical hit. How do you feel about this detachment rule, my man? And did anything change?
Yes, something actually did change. If you read the mission tactics rule, it says everything with the mission tactics is affected by this. If you look at the units themselves from the index, they actually have from their faction mission tactics as a keyword for their
Okay.
rules right next to the moments. So the way I read that, you only actually get that on the actual Deathwatch units or a character attached to those units, because it says, I know it says like Adeptus and Stars units from your army, you have the sustain this 1 ability, but you have to have the mission tactics rule to get that ability.
Okay. Yep. So are you saying stuff like, rhinos may not have this or
Correct.
things like that? Yeah.
Correct.
Easy done.
So it really pushes you to take the kill teams, which, I mean, you really want to do that anyways, but it really punishes you. You don't really want to take like a 10-man unit of Stern Guard veterans because you don't get the sustained hits or anything like that. So that's a little bit of a change from like where it was before, but the stratagems got really good.
Stratagem's got baller. The first of which is Armor Contempt, which we do not need to read. There is no point. The next one is Adaptive Tactics. This is 1 CP in your command phase, up to 2 kill team units from your army or 1 other Adeptus Studies unit from your army. For each unit targeted, select either one of the mission tactics I selected before, so lethal, sustained, or precision. Until the start of your next command phase, that mission tactic is active for you instead for your units instead of the one that you chose in your command phase. Is this any good?
Oh, it's very good. So basically, once you've used the 2 ones you mainly use, sustained and lethal, you have another 2. You can use it on another 2 units. So it's very useful.
Correct. Yeah, because of course these mission tactics are once per game. You can't just sit in lethal all game versus knights. Next up is Hellfire rounds, which used to be an absolute banger, and I believe is again. It's 1 CP in your shooting phase. 1 kill team unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot. Until the end of the phase, ranged weapons, excluding anything with devastating wounds, so no combi bolters, equipped by models in your unit have anti-infantry 4+ and anti-monster 5+.
Oh, that's infantry 2+.
So anti-move 2+, my bad, whatever I said. You cannot select any units that have already been selected with either the Kraken rounds or the Dragonfire rounds stratagems this phase, so you can't really stack those up. But this is a banger, mate. How do you like it?
Oh, I love it. And one thing to keep in mind is it used to be that these were locked to only bolter weapons.
Correct.
Now they're on all your weapons.
So the biggest winner there, of course, being the frag cannons.
Oh yes, those frag cannons are really loving that. But let me tell you, like, I really just love doing that on just like, because you got a lot of like tough Necron infantry. It's just like, oh, you're -1 to wound. Well, what if I'm just wounding you on 2s regardless?
Correct. Absolutely awesome. Kraken rounds is up next in your shooting phase. 1 kill team unit that's been selected to shoot. Until the end of the phase, improve the AP characteristic of ranged weapons equipped by models in your unit by 1 and improve the range by 6. And once again, the same caveats. You can't use it in conjunction with any of the other spicy round stratagems. This is another absolute brilliant strat, right? Bread and butter.
Oh, absolutely. One of the great things about this is, I know we were talking a little bit about this earlier, is that like Deathwatch is one of the best 10-man units in the game. That Gravis squad for 270 points, those multi-multis, all of a sudden they become 24-inch range. Let me tell you, when you deep strike within 12 inches, and then you get melted with that plus 6-inch range, that's very nice.
Of course. Yeah, that is huge, actually. That is absolutely massive, because one of the biggest issues with all the melter rifles, and in fact all the melter available to Marines, is that it doesn't do diddly squat from a deep strike most often. This is also just plain good on like the assault bolters you could have.
It's just great on everything, because like you give if you have like the ignore cover, you can go 18-inch flamers, you can go with ignore cover and AP1. It's just good on like, let me tell you, it's just like plus 6-inch range is so versatile, and the extra AP.
Yep, agreed. Gives you a lot more control. Dragonfire rounds is up next in your shooting phase, of course. Is another spicy weapons. Models in your unit have assault and ignores cover on their ranged weapons. And of course, once again, you can't use it in conjunction with any of the other spicy weapon stratagems. But yeah, ignores cover. It's just another AP. It's just another AP strat. So you got 2 of them. So you can have essentially +1 AP on 2 units every turn.
Yep, and now we go to my favorite stratagem.
Site-to-site teleportation, 1 CP, end of your opponent's fight phase, up to 2 kill team units from your army or 1 other Adeptus Studies infantry unit from your army. And none of those can be engaged at range of enemy units. Remove those units from the battlefield and place them back into strat reserve until the end of your next movement phase. Models in those units that do not have the deep strike ability have the deep strike ability. This is an absolute banger. Tell us about it, brother.
So this is just like the demon stratagem, but a little bit different because all demons have deep strike, but you don't have deep strike with all your stuff. But basically, like, almost every single unit you're bringing is a kill team that's infantry, and you're just picking them up. You go second, you pick them up. Then deep strike in turn one. You go first, you're just picking up 2 units, and now you deep strike with a bunch of other stuff and those 2 units. It gives you so much threat potential.
Yeah, exactly right. And it makes this army play like spicy Grey Knights, essentially, with Grey Knights that actually do damage from range, which is the biggest issue with Grey Knights, is that they don't shoot that good. If you're not scared of like a couple of heavy side cannons and storm bolters, the army kind of it really falls off a cliff. Whereas you bring like vastly different breakpoints on the damage potential, in addition to all the plus AP plus range and all those things. So it just reactivates all the stratagems again, doesn't it?
Oh yes.
Fantastic.
It's just, and it also just gives you like great threat potential for late game. If all of a sudden just like, yeah, I've got to get this secret objective, I've got a battle under over here. All of a sudden, you got to keep your opponent has to watch their backfield.
Yeah, that is huge, actually. Oh wow, yeah, I didn't even think about like the bottom of turn plays and stuff like that. Like, because this would really just open up so much extra goodness. All right, I am going to go into the enhancements now because, of course, Index is so old that the enhancements come after the stratagems. Thief of Secrets. Adept is a Astartes model only. Improve the strength, damage, and armor penetration characteristic of the bearer's melee weapons by 1. At the end of the fight phase, if one or more enemy models were destroyed as a result of a melee attack made by the bearer this phase, to the end of the battle, improve the strength, damage, and armor penetration characteristic of the bearer's melee weapons by 2 instead. So +1 to all the things that you want in combat, and then if you kill stuff, you got +2 the rest of the game. This is pretty good.
This is pretty much an auto take because this makes like almost any character you have a melee basic. Like this goes good on a Watchmaster. I love putting this on a Judicar. Almost any Marine model any Marine character that wants to have this, you should just take it on them.
Absolutely. I mean, even just like, because it just doesn't have to be Deathwatch. So this doesn't have to be of the Deathwatch special character, like, the Watchmaster, Watch Captain does it. This can be taken on like just a captain who has it's once per game Super Saiyan. And yeah, wow.
Yeah. No, I mean, all of a sudden go to 3 damage after you kill a model 4 damage is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And this one will run you 25 points as of the current MFM. All right. Osseous Key. Watchmaster or Tech Marine model only. At the start of the opponent's shooting phase, select one enemy vehicle unit that isn't Titanic within 12 of invisible to the bearer. They must take a leadership test. If the test is passed until the end of the phase, they are -1 to hit. If the test has failed, they cannot shoot this phase. This can be pretty big. I mean, the idea of just shutting down a tank commander or Rogal Dawn or like anything like that, the Silent King, for example. But is this any good?
No, I wouldn't take it personally. I think like if you have extra points, take it. But like usually you're not gonna have the points for it, and like the amount of times you're in that situation is going to be very low. Most of the time they'll either move back or they'll just shoot you for something else.
Yeah, and I think you're better off playing proactively and just trying to kill the thing, right?
If it's dead, you don't have to worry about them failing the leadership test.
That's right. This will only run you 15 points. It is the cheapest of the enhancements. Next up, the Beacon Angelus, which was an auto take previously. Right now, it is models in the bearer's unit have deep strike. In addition, you can target the unit with rapid ingress for 0 CP. It will run you 25 points, mate. Is it worth it?
It's good, but I think with being able to just deep strike 2 kill teams already by themselves, you're pretty much better off not taking that. I mean, there are ways you can use it, but like I think it would be better like a librarian with Stern Guard, but then you're not getting the benefit for like them being kill team and other stuff like that. You're better off just using the stratagem most of the time.
Yeah, I agree. Last one is, I think, pretty. Oh, it's so good. Tome of the Ectoclades, or Ectoclades. Everyone says it differently. Watchmaster or Captain model only. Once per battle, after you have selected your Oath of Moment target, the bearer can use this enhancement. If it does, you have a second Oath of Moment target for that turn. Wowie. We have Gilliman at home, indeed. It will run you 30 points. It's probably worth 30 points, mate, but what do you think?
I would take that almost every time because double oath on your go turn is amazing. It used to give you 4 rerolls to wound as well, but you don't really need that. It's cheaper. And the biggest thing about this is it doesn't say you have to be on the table.
Ooh, that's true. So you can have this waiting in reserve, wait till your opponent, goes for their go turn maybe, and then you have to respond, and then bang, pop it, deep strike, get all the value. That's really, really good.
Or you put in like Captain Gravis Armor, who's just sitting on the table with that 10-man squad, and you pop him up to reserve with this free strat.
Ooh, yeah. So you put him back into reserve, do the double oath, then he comes down. Yeah, that's really sick. That is excellent, actually. Full viability. All right, we now go into, of course, this is an index. This isn't just a detachment. We now go into an index detailing all the units you can take for Deathwatch. And this is the part of the show I just hand pass straight to Mark, mate. What's changed and what's spicy?
All right. So Watchmaster, he's really good. He used to be if he was your warlord, he would have a Vectora, so it'd make it 12 inch make command points cost one more. Now he just has the captain aura, that captain ability, but it's not called the captain. It's called Watchmaster instead of Rights of Battle. So it's called a different name. So you can use that and Rights of Battle. So you have to Watchmaster and a captain both use a free strat.
Awesome.
But he's really good. He now actually has AP on his gun. Not that it really matters because it's only 2 shots. But what he really does for you is he gives your unit advance and charge, advance and shoot, fall back and shoot, fall back and charge. That's something you don't have access to in the army for the most part. And he goes with like Deathwatch veterans or the Fortis kill scene.
Yep. He's only 105 points as well. He's actually pretty cheap for what he gives you.
And he slaps pretty hard in melee. 6 attacks, strength 6, AP2, D3 damage with lance.
We do not. So if you think we need to talk about all of these, we can talk about all of them. Next up is Watch Captain Artemis. What do you reckon?
He's pretty good. He now gives you lethal hits. He used to just let you use a strat again. But like lethal hits is a lot better. He's pretty cheap for 65 points. He's pretty good in melee, and he's got a anti-infantry devastating wound flamer.
Gets back up on death.
Yeah, he gets back up on death once per game on a 2-up, both 1 wound left. He's pretty good, not bad. Lethal hits, but you already have access to lethal hits pretty easily with the army.
What happened to his spicy grenade? He was always the guy who had the super grenade.
Yeah, he also had that super grenade thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. One thing he lost the super grenade, so that grenade keyword could go on every single unit in Deathwatch.
And you're happy about that, right? That's worth it.
I'm pretty happy with that. Every single unit in Deathwatch has grenades. All the kill teams. Maybe not the Terminators, but everything else has grenades.
That's correct. The Terminators do not. Well called. Deathwatch Vets, which used to be the literal thing you built your whole army around.
Yes.
How do you feel about them now?
I think they got a little bit of a side grade. You can't take 4 frag cannons now, but they're still the really good guys because you can still take 4 Thunderhammers, 2 Storm Shields, 2 of each special weapon. It's not 4 frag cannons, but they still slap.
Dude, Heavy Thunderhammer. Yeah, yes. Absolutely baller. That's the strength 10 -2, 3 damage Thunderhammer, of course, still having devastating wounds. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, takes oath like a champion.
And oftentimes you don't even need oath because the special rule for Deathwatch veterans, they reroll 1s always. If they target if they target something that's not Chaos and not Imperium, they get full rules hit. So any Xenos, full rules hit.
Bang. Off you go. Next up, we have the Termies. And I feel like the Termies is one of the biggest losers, seeing as now you get to deep strike with pretty much anything you want. So the Termies are pretty much just bringing their stat line.
I think they actually have a very good stat line. They are actually not a big loser. They actually got some buffs to what their abilities too. Because the big thing about the Terminators is you can take 3 cyclone missile launchers on them.
Ooh, that is nice. Yep.
So basically, like they're 180 points. They're like 20 more points than a regular Terminator squad, something like that. But they've got really cool special rules. They got 2 of them. They have reroll charges, and if they make their charge, you have to take battle shock -1 if you're Xenos, and then they got double numbers. But basically, you can get your Terminators, Deathwatch Terminators up however you want them to. So you can take like 3 cyclone missile launchers, 2 guys with Storm Shield Thunderhammers for 4 wounds each. They got lots of ways you can build them, but like being able to take 3 heavy weapons on them is really key.
Brilliant. And very happy to be wrong about them as well, because I think they're sick. But I was worried they were going to be like the least takeable of the new units. Corvus Black Star, one of the coolest looking planes, one of the least seen planes. Please tell me that the time is nigh.
Well, it's 180 points and stealth. So it is canonically it is supposed to be very, very not seen, and I think you're not going to see them very often anyways. They can carry 10. They can carry like 12 models, I think, like that. But they're just not worth it because you can just teleport around the board anyways. They just don't have the firepower to back up their points. For 180 points, you can have 5 Terminators, and then run out 5 Terminators in the Corvus Black Star.
Yeah, 100%. It's so sad. It is like I think the coolest looking Imperium plane.
It looks so cool.
It's fantastic. Non-super heavy, by the way. Non-super heavy Imperium plane. All right, Talon Strike kill team. So this is your jump pack kill team where you can take jump pack intercessors and what they call a heavy intercessor with a jump pack, which is in fact just an Inceptor. But they decided to call it like that as it is. Each time they set up on the battlefield until the end of the turn, improve the AP characteristic of weapons that they have by 1, and melee weapons get Lance. Not that I think the melee is going to come in that effective because you're going to be making 9-inch charges most of the time on the turn you set up on the battlefield. But the extra AP here couples so juicy with all the extra AP and the ignores cover stratagems. So you can have technically, just theoretically, you could have AP3 assault bolters, AP4 assault bolters with plunging fire.
Yeah.
Oh,
they are so good. Let me tell you, 15 shots, 4 reels to hit, 4 reels to wound because they're twin linked, and sustain hits 2 with those assault bolters. These guys really love just dropping down and just being like, hey, you see that unit over there? Yes? I don't want to.
So you got 1 kill team sergeant with a jump pack, 2 to 9 intercessors with jump packs, and then 0 to 5 heavy intercessors with jump packs. And I think if you so does that mean you can take just the 1 sergeant, 2 intercessors?
Well, the way all the kill teams are set up is you could, but you're still paying for 290 points.
You're still paying for the 10 guys
because they only have the only points options are for the 10 man. So you don't have to take 10 man, but you're already paying the points for them.
290 points is a bit exy, but it's a lot. You're getting a lot.
No, this squad is very strong, very good. You have to use them right because you can't just throw them away because that's a huge point sink. But if you use them well, then you just keep teleporting them around turn after turn, they will do a lot of damage for you.
Tell us about the Fortis kill team.
The Fortis kill team, that is your Primaris kill team now. That's the 10 guys with just it's basically your Primaris kill team, but they get a lot of different weapons. This is definitely a more shooting unit. The Deathwatch veteran unit, those guys can slap really hard in melee. These guys are definitely more shooting focused. But what they do for you is they get +1 to hit if they shoot something that's below starting strength. If they shoot something or attack something that's below half strength, they get +1 to hit and +1 wound, melee and shooting.
I mean, it's not the worst thing. It's a little annoying that the only way to make them have a rule is to already have shot something at something. But you can always just throw a grenade from one unit and then they put their fire into something else and then the Fortis team pops off. And you're right. This is your basic bog standard dude standing on 2 feet kill team. So this is intercessors, hellblasters, the flamer guys. What are they called?
Hellblasters, not hellblasters. They're I forget what they're even called.
The flamer ones. I want the pyre blasters.
The flamer guys.
Yeah, those dudes. Yeah, those guys. Yeah, we got there. And
Desolation. And 2 Desolation Marines.
Yeah.
They're pretty good, but I think for 200 points, you're almost better off taking the Deathwatch Veteran Squad.
Yeah, I agree. The Deathwatch Veteran Squad, built right, shoots just as hard and is way more well-rounded, in my opinion.
I agree.
Andromeda kill team up next, which will run you a hefty 270 points. And this is your walking Gravis unit. So this is heavy intercessors and aggressors, essentially. And eradicators. Each time model this unit makes a range attack that targets the closest eligible target or makes a melee attack in a turn in which it charged, improve the strength by 2, which does really help the melters get over the breakpoints. Because they have a bit of a strength problem, especially when you are not eradicators and you're not re-rolling everything. How do you feel about this kill team, mate?
I love this kill team. If you look at the points for what you're getting, you save a lot of points. Like 3 aggressors is like 120 points. 3 eradicators is something similar to that. And then you get 4 heavy intercessors for their 270 points for this 10-man squad. I think that's very worth their points. And they shoot really well. They're really hard to deal with because, 10 guys with 3 wounds and 3 up armor save, that's a tough nut to crack.
Toughness 6, access to armor contempt, of course. They have melters, they have power fists, and they have a bit of everything. Yeah, I think this is a really well-rounded unit again.
Well, I think it also combos really well with Flamestorm Gauntlets, because like we were talking before, like you make them 18-inch range, twin linked, D6 plus 1 shots to get 3 of them, and then like if you Overwatch with them, well, the only eligible target is the Overwatch target.
Correct. All the plus strength. Yeah, actually, yeah, wow, you are correct. And then, of course, you can give them AP, which they absolutely need.
Oh, yes.
All right, Spectre's kill team, your sneaky boys. So, infiltrators, reavers, and incursors.
Yeah, they're all right, but they just don't hit very hard. They do not hit very hard at all, and they just suffer from just that. You're paying 200 points for something that doesn't hit very hard. I mean, if you threw a Phobos Libby into them, they'd be all right. I mean, they can teleport around the board a little bit. I mean, this is the squad that would benefit from having Beacon and Jealous in there, because with their ability, you can pick them up and put them in strategic reserve. And if you had Beacon and Jealous, they get Deep Strike. But you're paying 200 points for a unit that teleports off the board, and then you don't want to use that unit for actions. You actually want to use them to do stuff.
Yep, sweet. Totally agree, dude. You hear me okay?
What's that? I can hear you now.
Beautiful. The only thing I like about this is that it is janky. It's a unit that has a reactive move, that has a second move, like in your shooting phase, you get to move again. It has infiltrator and scout, so you can infiltrate and then scout away, or closer if they end up not deploying 9 inches within you. And then there's another unit you can pick up and put down. But you're right, it just doesn't kind of do enough. I wish it had like the new Reaver rule, like where it minuses OC or something. But if 200 points, I think you can do better.
Yeah.
And that is it. That is the entire gosh diggity darn index reviewed. My man, out of 10, of course, it's going to be a very high score because you didn't have a faction before. But for the changes that happened between this index and when the index existed previously, how happy are you?
I'm very happy. I'd give it a solid 9 out of 10 for enjoyment for what I do with this list with these guys.
And so in a competitive ranking, so D tier up to S tier, where would you say a Deathwatch army ranks?
I would say they're probably, if you play them right, they're probably very high, probably between B and A, probably low A, high B. They're very strong, but you have to play them right.
I have them absolutely in A tier. I think they might be on the lower A tier, but I reckon they're an A tier army. I think they're a contender with, I think they're next to Dark Angels. So I'm a Dark Angels player. I'm a Dark Angels lover. I think the best possible Dark Angels list and the best possible Deathwatch list with the best possible player are pretty even. I think Ultramarines is probably better than both, but I reckon these guys are possibly the equal second best Marines you can play right now. And I think that's massive, just because I think they get to play well-rounded Marines, whereas every other Marine, like your Vanguard, your Ironstorm, is just a DACA with like maybe one melee unit. You can play Deathwatch that every unit shoots and fights, and I think that's a very interesting thing for Marines to be able to do.
No, that's very good. Deathwatch is always supposed to have been like the you have Marines are like the special forces of the Imperium. Deathwatch is the special forces of the Space Marines.
Yeah, indeed. Well, mate, that's going to finish us up for this part 1. Everyone sit tight. We're going to have Imperial Agents review with Jeremy Martino coming up next. You're going to be, we need to know, Mark. You taking Deathwatch to LVO?
I'm taking Deathwatch to LVO.
Mad lad. Love it. We'll talk a little bit about what you might bring and how you feel like you might go over on part 2. Hopefully you will join us. If you didn't know, part 2 over on Patreon, Art of War Down Under. I hope to see you there. Thanks again for coming on, Mark. You're an absolute legend.
Thank you very much.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the second segment for this week's Grotmas review. You've just heard the beautiful review with myself and Mark Hertel for the Deathwatch, and I almost had this wonderful gentleman on to do both Deathwatch and Imperial Agents, and I think he is a little miffed, rightly so, that I chose him for this one and not the Deathwatch, because I think that would be a much more enjoyable next half an hour. But this is the beautiful Jeremy Martino, perennial representative of Team Australia. Also, was on the team that won both Best Sportsmanship And the best, the first ever WTC championship went to this team and a gentleman from this team named, Jeremy Martino, who's the pairings wizard of Team Australia also. So hopefully I haven't beat you up too much, mate. Also,
that's the best intro you've ever given me, Adam. Thanks, mate.
Was that the three-time CanCon winner, technically?
Yeah, technically 3 times. Top ITC, like top battle 3 times, CanCon.
Yeah. Fantastic. Which is
I am used to, I am used to scraping the bottom of the barrel. So when you said, you got agents for me, I was like, yeah, I can do that. So.
Well, you're one of the few people that I know that has dedicated themselves to trying to make agents work. Like when it came out, you were one of the only people I knew of who were like actually thrilled and ready and willing to jump into the soup and the sauce that makes up agents. And I thought that's quite rare. And I don't know if anyone else doing anything different at the level that you are. So I thought, okay, I gotta get you on for this one. And I do apologize, it is not a better detachment. So because we're not going to pull any punches on this show, this detachment might be the worst one from Grotmas. And in saying that, Jeremy still has some ideas of how to make it work. So hopefully you'll come over and join us at part 2 for that. But this is just going to be the review, and it's going to be a rough one, ladies and gentlemen.
It is pretty rough. Pour yourself a glass of something strong. Maybe 2 tea bags, double tea bag.
Yeah, strong tea. But what are your hot takes on this detachment, mate?
Well, I mean, look, unfortunately, I was excited to see what they would do because from leading into Grotmas, the Imperial Agents obviously haven't been doing well. They're not obviously as we reviewed when we did the full codex review, it doesn't seem like they're particularly serious codex, but nonetheless, they obviously aren't putting any wins on the board. So I thought maybe they'd spice something up. And I was actually hoping that alongside the detachment, we would get some sort of like army rule. I thought that's what GW would provide, and that would give the whole kind of Imperial Agent some sort of like a buff across the board. Because realistically, and this is a bit of a preface for this, and I think we discussed this last time, the Imperial Agents detachments, especially the fleet detachment, which most people play, is actually a good detachment.
It is.
The detachment itself that they have access to is good. The problem is the data sheets. And so unfortunately, with this Grotmas detachment, the assassin one, it's not even that the detachment's horrible. Like, obviously we'll go through it. It's just unfortunate that you're working with very, very kind of mediocre, like paper thin data sheets. And you just don't have access to real serious firepower. So that's the problem with the army. And I was wondering how they would try to deal with it via this detachment. And I was thinking maybe they'd theme it as some sort of like anti-monster detachment to try to give Imperial Agents the capacity to actually deal with mech and monsters. But obviously, it unfortunately doesn't do that.
Yeah, well, so there's been 2 other factions that have had similar issues, as in like they have mid rules with bad data sheets, and the 2 that come to mind are GSC, which has proven to be wrong over time, but that certainly was the case post the significant nerfs. It's just people were just like, well, now that you've nerfed everything that was good, we don't have anything anymore. And then when their codex came out, looks like 3 months after their codex came out, they got a buff and off we are to the races. But Adeptus Mechanicus is the other one that comes to mind that has the similar issues. It has very poor AP despite having some very good platforms, and they have completely reworked that faction from the ground up over multiple data slates in order to make it and it's still in the mid, like it's still mid, or mediocre. And yet, Agents has all exactly the same issues. Their data sheets are like wildly underpowered compared to contemporary, other guard equivalent stuff, which is what you got to compare them to. And the fact that like I can have 1 guardsman that can be plus to hit in shooting or combat, plus extra movement, disembarking, whatever. I can make it do so many more things than you can do with a unit of like breaches, exaction squads, whatever it is. That's
absolutely.
Really, it feels kind of hollow. Like it feels like it's kind of a hollow faction. And I agree with you. I 100% think that they need an army rule, because right now the army rule is you get to take him as allies, which is Garbage.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like look. I mean, it's always good to be optimistic and to give. And I think, given the way that GW has approached 10th edition, not just in their own publications and their actions, but the way that they've kind of brought on board a lot of community members and woven in community member experts into their staff, like. They've done really well. So I'm kind of begrudging. I'm very hesitant to be like a doomsayer about it because I was actually thinking it was going to come. I was like, surely they're going to do an army rule. And that's all they need to do. Like, I feel like, if you look at like previous versions, the last kind of incantations of Imperial Agent type of things there's always been that kind of quarry rule where they kind of are always on a hunt, whether it's it doesn't matter whether you're talking about a specific Inquisitor, doesn't matter where their Inquisitor's from, might be a rogue trader. They're always kind of up to something, they're doing something. So having a quarry rule where you just, there's obviously different ways to implement it, but it could just be kind of like an oath of moment kind of thing. Like, picking you in the command phase and your army gets reroll wounds or reroll ones to wound or +1 to wound against that. That's your quarry for the turn. Yeah. Like, it just something like that would be a massive buff to the army and would make it kind of viable. But unfortunately, without that army rule, they're a bit hollow. So
you are zeroing in specifically on wound interactions because that's their biggest issue is getting the wounds through on high toughness targets or even just above average. Yeah,
that's absolutely it. Like the only weapon in the army that's kind of good into mech is the heavy thunderhammers for Deathwatch vets and maybe the twin linked multi-melter on the immolators. So you kind of have to take immolators, you have to take Deathwatch vets, but the problem is if you start going down that route of ending up with like 3 or 4 Deathwatch units, you end up in a situation where moving from your last podcast, you just go with the new Deathwatch detachment. At that point, you go stuff it. If you're playing 4 or 5 units of Deathwatch, why aren't you just playing the actual Deathwatch detachment?
Correct. All right, let us jump into the review. Extremist Sanction is the detachment rule. Officio Assassinorum units from your army can use the Overkill, Soulless Horror, and Shieldbreaker abilities twice per battle. So just to give you the quick TLDR, that is the collects assassins once per battle at the start of any command phase. This model can use this ability. If it does, each enemy unit within 9 of this model must take a battle shock, subtracting 1 and subtracting 2 if they are a Psyker, which has been nerfed in the latest starter slate. The Eversaw gets to twice per battle make in their movement phase before it makes a normal move, add 6 to its model's move characteristic and 3 to its attacks. And then the Vindicare gets to twice per battle. When selecting targets for its Exodus rifle, it can fire a Shieldbreaker round. If it does, it gets +1 to wound, and any wound is a crit. And of course, it has Dev Wounds, Precision, Ignores Cover on its Exodus rifle. So you're very good odds at Strength 8 -3, D3 +3 to one-shot most infantry characters in the game. Then the rest is when mustering your army, each Officio Assassinorum unit from your army has the relevant extremist abilities shown to the right. So this detachment does not have enhancements. It has extremist abilities. And you must increase the points cost of each of those units by the amount shown. If it causes you to go over 2,000 points, then you can't play the unit, of course. So straight off the bat, you don't get enhancements, you don't get that flexibility, you don't get that freedom to decide where you're going to put them or not. If you take an assassin, it must be with the extremist ability, which I'm about to detail to you. But how do you feel about this detachment rule, Jez?
Yeah, I mean, it's on the surface, it's kind of interesting. Like, I mean, if you strip it back and if we're taking like an optimistic outlook to it, you go, that's cool. Like the idea of this is that your assassins are better than they normally would be. And I'm cool with that. The premise of having assassins that get to use their unique ability twice, that's obviously good. And then get an additional enhancement, that's obviously good. The problem that we're about to encounter, I think, is that when they were working out, now this is a theory I've heard, I've seen on Reddit and stuff, so it's not really uniquely my theory, is that they needed the enhancements to all be the same price because of the rule that assassins have of swapping out for each other.
Correct.
And so they needed the assassins to kind of be in the same ballpark. So because of that, they kind of had to decide on a price point that all of the enhancements were going to be approximately. And it turns out that price point, I think, is just too much.
Absolutely too much in my mind. Yeah, absolutely too much. And the fact that you must take them, it's not a may, it's a must. Like you have to, just means that your assassins, which are what you are building this detachment around, come with attacks. When I'm of the feeling you're already playing in such a small sandbox and trying to literally use 4 models as the buy-in for this detachment that giving you attacks for the privilege feels bad. It's a bad taste.
Well, it also feels bad because the whole detachment rule is that, like, if you think about it, well, this detachment rule, and we've outlined it, is you get to use the abilities for each assassin twice. That's like the detachment rule.
Yeah.
So I feel like they're charging you for it in the cost of the enhancements. So they shouldn't be doing that because that should be free. That's the detachment rule.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah,
it should just be free.
so these enhancements should essentially be free.
Yeah, in my opinion, they absolutely should be. Because I'm about to tell you, they are the opposite of free. They're all extremely costly. The first of which is decoy targets. This is for the Custodes assassin. 40 points, which puts her up to 140, if you would like to take her. Twice per battle in your movement phase, you can select one other friendly infantry model that is on the battlefield and not within engagement range of one or more enemy units. The selected model is destroyed, ignoring any rules that would trigger for destroying a model, a la if it was a vehicle, it doesn't explode. And this model is removed from the battlefield and set up again as close as possible to where the destroyed model was and not within engagement range of one or more enemy units. So twice per battle, you get the Yin Khan ability, essentially. Which isn't a bad thing. It's not a bad rule. The fact is, though, the Custodes doesn't get any once per game abilities to double, and this detachment rule doesn't do anything at all for the Custodes assassin. It's specifically the Calexis, the Eversaw, and the Vindicare. They did not put in any clause here to assist the Custodes. Is this a good ability, though?
Yeah, it is a good ability. Just so you're obviously destroying one of your own models, but the assumption is it's going to be a cheap model. And then, you get to move there. There's some cool little tricks in that if your opponent has like locked you in combat, you can destroy the model that's locked in combat, so you essentially get to fall back for free.
Yeah.
There's little cool things like that you can use it for, but fundamentally the idea is that
the one you kill can't be in engagement range, but I think you can use this to beam the Custodes out of combat, right?
No, doesn't it say that you just destroy a model, but the Custodes doesn't go into engagement range? I might have heard that wrong.
Yeah, no problems. One infantry model that is on the battlefield and not within engagement range of one or more.
Oh, okay. So you can't do that. Okay, so I mean,
out of combat.
Yeah. So you can escape with her, but look, the idea of it is obviously it can be anywhere on the board. So if you're pushing a flank with a small cheap unit, or you drop, in a situation where they let you keep a cheap unit somewhere on the board, you can just put the Custodes there. The problem with it is that it's happening in your own movement phase.
Yeah. What I like about it doesn't say when. So you can advance that model, blow it up, put the Custodes there. The Custodes hasn't moved yet. The Custodes then moves. So you can almost look at this as a double move for the Custodes because you get to move.
Yeah, that is a good use. So it's kind of cute, and it is like in the same way that the Incarn, when you look at good players, use the Incarn, you're like, oh, holy crap! Like I didn't know, wasn't even thinking that was. It opens like really interesting possibilities. The difference between the Incarn and a Custodes, though, is that the Incarn's an actual beast.
Correct.
The Custodes, the Custodes is not as powerful as the Incarn.
Yeah.
Like there are some cool tricks you can do, and I like the idea. Well, that idea you've just mentioned is quite strong. Like because you're able to really get extra movement with it. The downside, of course, is just that. It's not the Custodes is kind of cute in that it's got a lot of utility across different fronts, but it's not like a blender like the Eversaw is. It's not going to go in and
it's not going to go in and kill 5 Astartes. It's not going to go in and kill 5 scouts because it's got 5 attacks hitting on 2s and it'll be winning on 3s. And so you need all of them to hit, all of them to wound for you to kill 5 scouts. I suppose you do got the flamer as well to flex and kill the 3rd or the 4th or the 5th. But you are correct. The Custodes is a tech piece. It has been a tech piece for the longest time. And I totally agree. So moving on, esoteric explosives. This is also 40 points. And whilst I can see the Calidus one being at times worth 40 points, this one just kind of isn't. So Colexus model only. Each time this model is targeted with the grenade stratagem, 1 mortal wound is inflicted on a 3+ instead of a 4+. So it's 40 points to on average do only one more on average on 6 dice, 3+ to 4+, for 40 points to do 1 more mortal wound when you grenade. Just not it. Just not it. Could have been. It should have been 2+ for 40 points.
Yeah, like it's so many ways it could have been. You get to do this in addition to it could have been a 0 CP grenade.
Yeah.
There's lots of other ways they could have made it, like bundled it in to make it actually kind of cool. As you said, it's, on average you throw a grenade, you do 3. Now you're doing 4. I guess you could say the variance is a bit lower. Like you're less likely to whiff. Sometimes you throw a grenade. Yeah, like if you look at the kind of the standard deviation on your outcomes, you're going to have a lower chance of doing a full whiff. But that's kind of we're grasping at straws here. It's not good.
Yeah, it's not good. And for that reason, I think this is not a good detachment for a Colexus, despite you getting to use your ability, which has been nerfed correct. Moving on. Next one is for the Everswords, 35 points. Once per battle round, you can target this model with heroic intervention or counter-offensive for 0 CP, and you can do so even if you've already used that stratagem on a different unit this phase. So you can heroic for 0, or you can interrupt for 0. For 35 points, this is likely to come up once or 0 times if your opponent is aware of it. And this is my problem with this one. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, look, the Eversaw is
incredible.
It is an incredible. It's a very good unit. It's particularly good in this detachment and in this army, and generally in Imperial Agents, because it's very quick. It's a blender, and this detachment, without going too far ahead, has a stratagem that gives Eversaws 4-up, feel no pain.
Correct.
So there's like a kind of a world where once you combine your capacity to do a free interrupt and pop a 4-up FMP, your opponent kind of might have to fight the Eversaw first, and then if they do fight the Eversaw first, they kind of might have to overcommit to it because they know it can pop the FNP. So it's kind of like, and it's also +1 toughness and FNP. So it kind of like, I think it if you consider the fact that you also have access to the other stratagem, it works in tandem to make the Eversaw a bit more sticky and annoying than it normally would be. Because normally it goes in and just dies. Like you go in, you kill something, and then it just dies. This time, with this access to the 6-inch lone op strat, access to this interrupt, access to the FNP, your opponent might actually have to spend a lot more resources killing it than they normally would. So you have to kind of look at this ability in full context of the strats, and I actually think it's okay if you look at it in that context.
I think this, it's 35 points. It is the cheapest of the options, and it does enough for me to round out the Eversaw, because the Eversaw didn't need much from this. It just needed to be a little more well-rounded, and I think this actually does something in that direction. I just wish it was like, everything we've written out, so everything we've read out so far, and the last one we're going to read out, could have easily been 20 points. Not 40 points.
Yeah, or it should just be free in the detachment.
Yeah, free.
And then you wouldn't complain about the 3-up grenades on the Colexus, because you're like, well, it's free, who cares? But the fact you're paying so much is ridiculous. Yeah,
and the fact you have to, it's a must pay. Anyway, the last one is of course the Vindicator Assassin one. The model's Exodus rifle has anti-monster, anti-vehicle 4+. This is the most expensive, and it comes in at 45 points. Now we already talked about a little bit about this one, because I'm kind of the opinion this is the worst one. Most likely the Colexus one is worse, but the reason I feel like this is really bad is because you have the twice per game +1 to wound. Any wound is a crit, and then your strength 8. So +1 to wound with strength 8 is you're already wounding anything in the game on a 4, because nothing's toughness 17. So everything in the game you're wounding on a 4 twice per game. So this is on the 3rd time you would need to wound something, a vehicle, monster, something of high toughness that is more than toughness 8. This comes up.
It just makes it a dev wound. Because he's got devastating wounds, right? And he does on his gun.
Yeah.
Like so I guess it just means you're getting a dev wound, but the as you said though, because you're getting the ability to do the crit on the automatic critical wound. Means that because you get 2 of those per game, if you're playing like Imperial Knights, you're versing Imperial Knights, or if you're versing Imperial Guard and you're shooting your Vindicare at like say a just a like a lemon rust, whatever hell lemon rust, you're gonna be popping those once per game abilities straight away because you get a second one of it. So this isn't gonna come up until you're like shooting in the 3rd battle round.
Yeah, exactly right.
Then it comes up kind of in that you get the dev wound on a fire. So it becomes a slight buff, but it's not. It really isn't that big a deal. Like it's very minute, and for such a big cost, I think it's. Yeah, I agree that it's probably the worst.
Yeah, and we added it up. If you took all 4 assassins with all their must-pay costs, you're looking at 600 points, 600 or give or take. I think it's 580 to take 4 assassins with all of their relevant ones. And we'll definitely be talking in part 2 about which ones you do, which ones you don't take, because of course they do come with an extra tax. For every 2 assassins that you take, you are only 20 points shy of taking a 3rd assassin because of the extremist abilities, because they're all about 100 points. All right, first of the strats, prime targets. And I do have to say, some of the strats are pretty damn good, but prime targets is 1 CP. It's in your shooting or the fight phase. 1 agent of the opponent unit from army that hasn't been selected to shoot or fight. Till the end of the phase, each time model in your unit makes an attack that targets a character unit, reroll a wound roll of 1. If that attack is made by an Officio Assassinorum model that targets the enemy warlord, you can reroll the wound roll. I wish that if it was just, I wish that warlord was not there. If it was just, you just reroll to wounds if you're a assassin targeting a character, then it would have been juice. It would have been good. The fact that it's just your warlord for the assassin caveat, I think is pretty bad.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, look, it's as I said at the start of this podcast, I think Imperial Agents, they really need some sort of rule to give them reroll 1s to wound across several options. But if you just look at this in a vacuum, as 1 CP strat for reroll 1s to wound, that's actually pretty good. Like if you think about this in other armies, you would take this, you would pop this a lot. So if you're, I just feel like this is a relatively solid damage buff stratagem that it's costed probably appropriately. It's obviously not worth 2 CP. It's fine for 1 CP. Yeah. There are times when you're going to pop it, and as you said, given that these stratagems are supposedly like having an additional effect on, because the thing is, right, like rerolling 1s to wound on a lot of the assassins isn't particularly relevant. Like it's somewhat relevant, like, but a lot of them don't. It's good on the Eversaw because it has so many attacks.
Yeah, but especially on the Eversaw, because Eversaw is anti-infantry 3+, and so you're re-rolling half your fails. On this guy, and of course you're not sending him out to kill a tank. It's a waste of an Eversaw. You're only sending him out to smash the infantry.
It's really good on an Eversaw, especially, and I think the Eversaw becomes a linchpin in this army. Like we'll talk about it with the other strats as well. Like if you get your Eversaw to survive a turn, if it goes in and blends and survives and gets to do it again, that's that's really good. And this strat is part of the package of making him nuts. So yeah, like but also like if you've got like 10 Deathwatch vets charging something and they pop this strat for reroll 1s to wound, that's like pretty nice on the Deathwatch hammers, like that are strength 10. It's pretty nice on the Watchmaster who's got lance. So I think it's a fine strat.
Yep. I think it's just fine, only because it's necessary. Hyperstim is up next. It's 2 CP. 2 CP. Your opponent's shooting phase or the fight phase just after an enemy unit has been selected as targets. 1 agent of the Imperium character unit from your army that was selected as target of 1 or more of those attacks. At the end of the phase, add 1 to the toughness characteristic of models in your unit. In addition, if it's an Eversaw assassin, until the end of the phase, it has a 4+ feel no pain. So I can see why this is 2 CP. It's 2 CP. I wish this was 1/2 CP. Like it was 2 CP to use it on an Eversaw, because of course the Eversaw gets so juiced going to toughness 5, 4 up invuln, 4 up feel no pain. But 2 CP for what I would assume is one of the best case uses here is the unit of, is it breaches? I can't remember the unit that goes with the rogue trader.
Yeah. Right. Normally you put breaches and rogue trader together. Yeah.
Yeah, correct. Because you will use this, of course, to make strength 6 weapons wound you on a 3 instead of a 2. So it's in effect 2 CP -1 to wound, which isn't a bad going rate. Like the 2 CP is just fine for -1 to wound in the game at the moment. So when you hit that breakpoint, this is just fine, especially when we've got 15 models and a bunch of them are for 2 wounds and a 4+ invuln anyway. And then, of course, you can res them. But how do you feel about it, mate?
Yeah, I think obviously you're only going to pop this strat. If we let's like the Eversaw is a bit separate, but on a normal thing, you're only going to pop the +1 toughness if that +1 toughness matters. So it's kind of sometimes going to be a strat that's -1 to wound.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not going to work because your opponent might be strength 5 into your toughness 3, so it doesn't matter if you got a toughness 4. It's not doing anything. So it's kind of like. I just think these kinds of strats are pretty bad when the effect is kind of already kind of fine. Like 2 CP for -1 to wound is a fine strat. This is situational. It's not always going to work, and it's not always going to work on all the weapons in the unit. Like you might pop it, and you're getting -1 to wound against some of the weapons in the unit that they're firing at you.
So where I do like it is on the Deathwatch and the possible Grey Knights in your army, right?
Yeah, like the Grey Knights, making them. If your opponent's hitting you with strength 5 or strength 6, and then this becomes -1 to wound, or if this hitting you with strength 10, it's -1 to wound. That's good for the termies, but 2 CP, it's a lot of CP.
Yeah, it is.
For me, I like this on the Eversaw. If just the fact that this strat exists means that if your Eversaw, because your Eversaw can interrupt for free, if you're sitting there with 2 CP, your opponent's like they want to kill your Eversaw, they have to assume you're going to pop this strat because they can't let your Eversaw live.
Correct. So they're going to have to double and triple commit. Like
they're going to have exactly. And we know through anyone that's played for any amount of time knows that when you have an invuln and a feel no pain together,
crazy things happen.
Crazy spike potential. So if you've got a 4-up invuln and a 4-up FMP, even though I think he's only got 4 wounds, or she, who because they're both, but it's particularly complex, and I think your opponent will go, I can't let that live again because it's going to do the whole thing again. So I have to overcommit, and then that's kind of cool because then if they overcommit, you just don't pop the strat. You let it die.
Yeah,
it's good. It's a good. The fact that it exists is good. You're probably not going to use it that often because they will just overcommit on you.
Yeah. It's the one you tell them about and rarely use. But it is still good at what it does. Next up is Will Sapping Salvo. It's 1 CP into your shooting phase. 1 Agents of the Imperium infantry unit from your army that has been selected to shoot. You get sustained hits 1. In addition, if it's a collects assassin till the end of the phase, change the damage characteristic of ranged weapons equipped by models in that unit to 3. And just to refresh on what the Collectus shoots, it is 3 shots at strength 5 -2 D3 damage, so it'll be flat 3, with anti-psycho 2+, assault precision, and psychic assassin, which is What is psychic?
Becomes 6 shots against psychers.
Oh yeah. Is this any good?
I mean, I guess he just kills Magnus. He just one shots Magnus.
Yeah. Does he?
Well, I guess he does. Like 3, because Magnus doesn't get the -1 damage against psychic weapons.
Okay.
So he would. I think it's a psychic weapon, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it would be 6 shots. If he hits and wounds with all of them, he does 18 damage, and Magnus has 16 wounds. So it's obviously unlikely to hit and wound with all, but you're hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s. So this guy and with his grenades, he kills Magnus.
Wild. Yeah, each time you select a Slacker as the target of this weapon, until those attacks are revolved, the attack characteristic weapon is 6. So 6 shots hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s, flat 3 damage. It's not dev wounds though, so he will just get his save.
Oh, it's not dev wounds.
He's dev wounds in combat, not with his shooting attack.
Oh, okay. All right. Scratch that. I was getting excited for a second.
Yeah, almost. You almost got us.
Still good though. Like it's still like if you're obviously what was the AP on that shooting attack?
It's only 2.
Yeah.
It doesn't ignore cover either. So if a tip at Magnus's base, he's going to take 3 up saves.
It's kind of interesting in that you're spending this Yeah, it's an interesting situation that you would do this. Like, obviously, if you're shooting your Colexis at a psyker and you want that psyker dead, or if you're shooting it at a psychic unit, like obviously this is nice into, for example, Scarab Occult Terminators or Grey Knight Terminators with 3 wounds.
Yep.
Going to flat 3 is good. Picking up sustained hits is good. So there are situations where like it makes sense to pop the strap, but like sustained hits one. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, so it's 6 shots hitting on 2s with sustained. You're more often than not getting 6 hits, if not 7 hits, and then and you're half the time getting 7 hits. We're winning on 2s, so 6 wounds. They'll level 4 up. You'll kill 3 Terminators, like for a CP. That's not the worst thing in the world.
No, that is good. And then you're grenading another one down with his improved grenades. Like, yeah, like it's fine. It's just like it's one of those things where you think that for a detachment that's so specialized, this would be like it's not like the effects aren't wowing. They would need to be really impressive for such a restricted, because this is like 1 CP sustained is like a mediocre ability. It's like a fine strat. It's not good. It's like mediocre.
Yeah.
But you've got 1 model in your army that gets this added benefit, and the added benefit's like kind of pseudo. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to it in part 2, but I strongly believe this is a 3 assassin army, not a 4 assassin army. And we'll talk about that more in part 2. But I will tell you, when I got sent all these, like I woke up one morning and I had just been sent the 26 Grotmas detachments or whatever the crap it was. And when I read through this the first time, I was like, wow, these extremist abilities must be absolutely cracked, because obviously I could see the 40 points and I was reading the detachment rule. And then I read them and none of them impressed me. Only the Calidus one, because the Calidus one is a beautiful piece of jank that can make a mess of a lot of things. But then the Calidus is either good in some detachments or not good in some detachments, in some matchups.
Yeah.
Whereas the other ones, I was like, oh, I don't want to pay points for these. I don't want to pay this many points for these. But yeah. All right, next up is Orbital Oversight, possibly the best one. Your opponent's shooting phase just after an enemy unit selected its targets. 1 agents of the Imperium infantry unit from your army that was selected as a target. You get Lone Op 18. If your unit already has Lone Op, you have Lone Op 6. So this is crazy good, in my opinion. This is like the detachment of this is the stratagem of the detachment, in my opinion. This is the one you try and use every turn. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, yeah, like the Lone Op 6 is obviously really good.
Yeah. So you blitzkrieg out your Eversaw, you go and kill a trading unit, they move out to get within 12, and you say, well, I moved well, knowing you could get within 12, but you can't get within 6. So bang, push the button, I use my Eversaw.
That's very good. And the other ability, just the Lone Op 18 generally, like that's a fine stratagem. But from someone that was playing CSM at the start of the edition, and I was running the Nurgle strat on Terminators, when they changed the Lone Op 12 to Lone Op 18 on that strat, it became way worse. Like I felt it playing it. I was like, wow, it's so much easier to get within 18 than within 12.
Correct.
So that first part of the strat is kind of meat. It's like very milquetoast. Like it's fine, good.
Well, here's the thing, right? There's no backline battle tank. There's no Castigator, Lehman Russ. There's not even unit of Devastators that you can build and like try and leave in the open as a lodestone to shoot anything in the open whilst, keeping it Lone Op 18. There's none of that. Like, what are you going to use this on? Like, realistically, the only thing I can think of is trying to keep Deathwatch vets alive after you send them out. And then, like,
well,
you said,
the thing is, you already have. Yeah, sorry.
No, you go.
I was going to say, well, we already know, like, they already have access to Inquisitor Draxus, who has this rule on the 2-up. So, like, Imperial Agents players already, like, if you're running that one unit of Terminators, or she actually can't join Terminators, but the Deathwatch or whatever with Draxus in it, having this strat, it's as you said, like it's just not. It's one of those things where sometimes it'll come up because your opponent will want to shoot your breaches off an objective, and they'll only have like 1 or 2 units that can get within 18, but they need more than that to shoot them off. So then you just pop the strat and you survive. Like, so it's fine. It's like it's a decent strat, and if we have this strat in any detachment, like it situationally comes up, obviously it shines. And the reason why I agree that it's definitely it's definitely in the top 2 for the detachment is because it makes your assassins a lot harder to deal with.
Well,
So
it also makes your assassins immune from deep strike kills because we now have 6-inch deep strikes, and you can just be lone up 6, and they can't be within 6.
yeah,
So
there's no possible way to deep strike and kill them. Yeah, wow,
there's
that's pretty cool, right?
there's no way to deep strike kill an assassin like in this army. And I think that is sick. That is quite sick. It means that an assassin can hold like an expansion objective by themselves with impunity at times, which is quite powerful, which is why I'm so keen on this, because it could be a whole playbook.
Yeah,
It could be the whole game.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, blind grenades is up next. Your opponent's charge phase, just after an enemy unit has declared a charge. One agent of the Imperium grenades or Vindicare assassin unit from your army that was selected as target of the charge and is not within engagement range already. Until the end of the phase, subtract 1 from the charge or subtract 2 if you're the Vindicare. How do you feel about this one?
Oh God.
I'm okay with people trying to make 9-inch charges from reserve and turning that into a 10. That's fine. But outside that, like, why is it grenades units? Like, I'm not even sure.
Yeah, you could also say, and you also need to be wearing a red cap. You know, you also need to be wearing a red cap's probably the wrong thing to say. Blue cap. You know, it's why there's so many conditions on what you need to be doing to do this strat. It's like. Right. It's not even good. I feel like this strat, they probably wrote it as neg 2 and neg 3 or something, and then they thought it was too strong. Because like if it was neg 2 base and then neg 3 for the Vindicare, then you'd be like, oh, that's actually pretty good.
It is. It is. Neg 1 is whatever. Changing a 7, 2, and 8. Well, sure. Maybe they had to spend a CP as well to re-roll it when they rolled a 7. So it's a CP to CP exchange. But people aren't declaring wild charges, man. Like I don't. Yeah,
I don't know in what world you're doing. It's like this is just one of those like Hail Marys. Your opponent sets up a 7-inch charge, and you're like, okay, well, I guess I try to make it hard. So,
I guess. Yeah, and you just shrug, and then you go have to double check that unit has grenades. All right, last one, ensnaring trap, which is good. 1 CP, end of your opponent's charge phase. 1 agent of the Imperium infantry unit from your army that is within 6 of 1 or more enemy units and would be eligible to declare a charge against 1 or more of those enemy units. Your unit can declare a charge. When doing so, you must declare 1 of more enemy units as the target of that charge, and your unit does not receive a charge bonus this turn, so it doesn't fire first. In addition, if it's a colorless assassin, and it makes a charge move, as a result of the stratagem, until the end of the turn, each time modern unit makes an melee attack, add 1 to the wound roll, which is quite good on the Calidus because she's only strength 5. So going to strength 5 plus 1 wound is actually quite a beautiful breakpoint. In addition, it pairs up beautifully with the extremist ability, where you can use this like defensively because, of course, she already has fights first. So she gets no charge bonus, but she doesn't lose fights first because fights first is just a core ability. So she will still fight first, as far as I know. And so you can do these beautiful things where in your movement phase, you know your opponent has to charge onto this objective to trade it back, but then you kill a unit out of it and you hide a collected assassin in the unit. You also have the ability to just heroic intervene for the same CP if you want to as well. How do you feel about it, mate?
Yeah, I like this strat. I think this is probably the best in the detachment alongside the blown up one. It's best on just the big brick units that you will have in the army, like the Terminators, like the Deathwatch. Like, for example, because there's a lot of maps where you can kind of hide like 3, maybe 2 or 3 models on the objective, on the lip of the objective within terrain. Yeah, but correct. You can't get more on there. So you might get like, say, 6 OC of Deathwatch on an objective. But then your opponent just comes and denies you. They just OC deny you. They just go, oh, well, I'm just going to put 7 OC or 6 OC on the objective so that you don't hold it. This means often, depending on the exact positioning of your models, that they can't do that because you'll just charge them. So this kind of strat is really powerful on combat units that can kind of jump onto an objective and essentially hold the hold objective from just the lip of it. And
fully defended.
That is really, and obviously you might fail the charge. Like you might need to roll a 5 and you fail it. But the point is that it's still very, very powerful. And I also think you're right with the Calexis. I think it's particularly good because the Calidus, because the Calidus gaining +1 to wound with also that strat to reroll ones.
Correct.
So if the Calidus does that and then reroll ones to wound, and actually ends up doing more than it should and could really help defend an objective. So I think this is really good. I think, and because of this strat, I would be in this army probably trying to take 2 of the Grey Knight Terminator units, or Deathwatch. But I think it works particularly well with Grey Knight Terminators because they are. I just think they benefit as well from that +1 toughness strat. They also love the reroll ones to wound. Like, I think that that's probably what I'd be leaning into in this detachment is a couple of those units. But we'll talk about that more in your second part. But that's what I'm imagining when I think of this strat. I'm thinking Grey Knight Terminators defending objectives. Normally, they're vulnerable to just because you can't. If you have a Grey Knight Terminator unit, right, and it's just plonked on the middle of an objective, it's just going to get shot off the objective.
Correct. Yeah.
But if you are hiding in a way that you get some coverage of the objective, then this lets you defend it.
Yeah, agreed. I got one question for you though, and this may need someone more clever than us. But the Grey Knight detachment, the Grey Knight data sheet ability. Each time a model in this unit makes a charge move, and to the end of the turn they have lethal hits. This says you don't get it. So the reading of the stratagem is when doing so, you must select one and your unit does not receive a charge bonus this turn. But you declare a charge and you make a charge move. So do you count as having charge for the lethal hits? You don't receive.
I don't know about that. I don't know.
Put it on FAQ Watch. I don't know that. We'll need a properly skilled judge to tell us the delineation there. But anyway, that is the end of the review of this detachment. And despite it being one of the weakest of Grotmas, we still managed to give it 40 minutes, and we might give it a couple more. I have fundamental issues with this, with the construction of this detachment. Why am I paying a tax when I should just be? It's way too much stick, not enough carrot for my liking. When I'm already told I have to pretty much make these, couple of assassin units pretty much my whole game plan. What are your thoughts, dude?
I agree. I think there's so many ways they could have made this better. One way would just be to remove Epic Hero from the assassins, or just say, there's this whole theme of 2 that's going on in this detachment. Just let you take 2 of each assassin.
Correct.
We know they exist. We know they're not literally epic heroes. Like there's lots of assassins. They're just epic heroes because they're very rare, right?
Yeah. And while I don't want to see 2,000 points army of just lone up 6 assassins, I think taking 2 of each, or your pick, you can take 2 of each of any 1 or 2 of these assassins. Like you can't have double ups of all 4, but maybe 1 or 2 of them you could double up. I think would be totally fine.
Yeah, that's absolutely, or exactly what they could have done is one of the enhancements could have been, you can take an additional assassin. That's what the enhancement lets you do. And it just things like that needed to work this detachment into being an actual, make it not only is it thematically assassin, but practically assassin. So I feel like you're right. I do think it's a dropped ball. It could have been a lot more fun and interesting. I still think there will be people that will play this just because it's fun. And there is some power there. I think that 6-inch lone up on assassins is actually pretty powerful. Yeah. And if people are if you can get your Eversaw to go in, blend something, and live, if you create that problem for your opponent by targeting a specific position where they can't deep strike on you because you've blown up, they can't get to you, you're going to interrupt them, whatever. If that Eversaw lives and gets to then do his ability again, that's pretty nuts. You're probably on your way to winning that game.
Yeah.
So. I also think it's just kind of fun, but there could have been a lot better. I think there doesn't need to be this kind of delineation between it's either fun or bad, or good. You should be able to do things that are good and fun. And I think, to be honest, GW have actually done a great job this edition of doing that, of creating armies that are fun to play and strong. So there's no reason why they've had to, in some situations, really, really depower certain things.
Yeah. All right. Into our rating system. You, as an Imperial Agents player, and speaking on behalf of like the 4 other Imperial Agents players, what would you give this out of 10? So 10 being the best detachment you could ever imagine, and 1 being the worst.
I'm going to give it a 4.
Generous. I was going to give it a freaking like 3. Yeah, this was a massive swing and a miss for me. I think the Calidus is very cool in here. I think the Eversaw is very cool in here, but the rest of them just kind of like it didn't do enough of what it was trying to do. All right, I mean, I already know where this is going to fall in the competitive rankings tier list, but from D tier to S tier, where do you think an army using this detachment will end up?
Pretty close to D tier.
D freaking tier, absolutely.
Oh, you're not taking this detachment over the fleet if you're playing an actual good Imperial Agents army. So if you're playing this army, you're doing it because you want to lean into the the character of it. Yeah, and look, there are times where you'll bamboozle someone and they'll be shocked at what you've done. So there are some cool things you can set up with the assassins, but at the end of the day, they're just like 4 wound models with 4-up invulns. Like they will just die. They'll die to like an intercessor squad.
Dude, they'll die to a grenade. Like that. Like you could just like
they will. They will just die to a grenade. So yeah. So it is not a strong detachment.
It is not. And on that note, we are done. We're going to go over and record part 2. Jeremy's going to give us his juice, because he has a little bit of juice on this detachment, on how to wield it, how to use it. And also, we're going to talk about Imperial Agents therein. And the first questions I'm going to throw at Jeremy is, if you were to write the army rule for Imperial Agents, what would it be? Hopefully, you'll join us over there. If not, sit tight. We have one more segment coming for your viewing pleasure, audio pleasure, with the beautiful Folger Pyles, gentleman who just won the World Championships of Warhammer with Custodes. Going to be helping me review the new Custodes dreadnought detachment. All right, sit tight, take care. We'll see you soon. Thanks, Jeremy. You're an absolute champion.
Thanks, folks.
Hello and g'day, my lovely listeners, and welcome back to the 3rd segment on this week's Grotmas review. That being the 3rd week of Grotmas, we're going to be going with Grotmas all the way through probably to February, especially seeing as I might need to take a week off because of LVO adventures. I am joined by a gentleman who is coming to the LVO and just had one of the absolute mercurial Cinderella moments at Worlds, at WCW. He's a gentleman that should come as no surprise to any of you, seeing as you knowing that we're reviewing Custodes right now. But I am one of this man's greatest cheerleaders, and I definitely felt the hand of destiny touching his shoulder as he made his mercurial run through 8 rounds of the hardest and best players in the world. His name is Folger Pyles, as I like to call him, the Big Pile. I just made up that just then. I literally just made that up. But he's the Big Pile, the Big Golden Pile, and his name is Folger Pyles. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you for having me. That is a 10 out of 10 intro right there.
I'm very good at intros, very bad at outros, I have found. I always find I close out shows very awkwardly, but I bring people onto the show, hopefully in an outstanding manner, and then giving people off-the-cuff silly nicknames. But yeah, the Big Pile, let's make that stick. You need to get that on the back of a jersey somewhere.
I will get on that.
We are here to review the Solar Spearhead. You've already listened to us reviewing Deathwatch and Imperial Agents. Hopefully you enjoyed the quite long Imperial Agents review I did with Jeremy Martino. We got 40 minutes out of that absolute pile of and here we are with something far more interesting, far more exciting, and exceptionally good, I think. But Folger, what are your hot takes here on this Solar Spearhead?
I guess the first hot take would be, is this the best Custodes detachment? Who knows? Gonna have to find out, but it's definitely under the conversation.
It is, isn't it? Now, you were a big proponent of taking the Talons of the Emperor over the Shield Host already, and I do agree. I like the double reactive moves that you had access to in your list for Worlds. I thought that was a really, really cute, and 2 reactive moves is a lot, especially for other melee armies to handle. So how do you think this ranks versus that?
I think it's probably equal in terms of power level. It just matrixes a little bit differently. So you have less so much as grind, but you get way more free matchups. Mm-hmm. And you also have a different set of tricks. Both of them have lots of different tricks you can do. And it's really fun to like play Custodes, the big derp army, as a tricky army. So I've been having fun.
I do agree. I think the more jank you can put on, so the more modes and the more ways you can make big expensive models play, like the more well-rounded you can make them, it's an exponential increase. Like getting like I said, the reactive moves, getting a reactive move on 10 guardsmen, not that big a deal. Getting a reactive move and making a dreadnought, that's a couple of 100 points and 2 up, get back on death, invuln, all this stuff, do a bunch of different stuff that people don't expect. I think it's only like it's got to have a modifier, a magnifier on it, so to speak, percentile wise.
Absolutely.
Jumping into the detachment rule, Auric armor. While Adeptus Custodes vehicle unit from your army is at starting strength, unless it is an aircraft or is battle shocked, add 2 to the OC. Next dot point, because there are 3 dot points. While Adeptus Custodes vehicle unit from your army is below starting strength, a time model in that unit makes an attack reroll, a hit roll of 1. We all know how hard rerolls are to get in Custodes, so that seems pretty nice. And then last one, while Adeptus Custodes vehicle is below half strength, you get to reroll a wound roll of 1 and a hit roll of 1. But wait, there is more. Add 2 to the move characteristics of models in Adeptus Custodes walker units from your army and add 1 to advance and 1 to charge rolls. And then lastly, in the muster army step, you can select up to 2 Adeptus Custodes walker models from your army. The selected units gain the character keyword. Wow, that is a lot of detachment rule in that detachment rule, my man. What do you make of it?
When kind of got leaked that they were going to do a dreadnought detachment, I was like trying to think through like what are they going to do, like what would actually make them good. I couldn't really think of anything. But if you slap 5 different army rules on dreadnoughts, turns out sure does help. Especially, that's it's been really awesome. It makes them so insanely efficient that like they're just pumping at 120% capacity the entire game.
So what OC are most of the dreadnoughts? Are they 2 or 3?
So the Contemptor dreadnoughts go from 3 to 5, but the big winner here is Telemons go from 4 to 6.
That's big. That is big.
Yeah.
So a 5 OC, derpy trading unit in the middle is out OC'd by just moving a Telemon onto an objective with them. That is huge.
Yep. The other thing to consider, this is not just walkers that benefit, it's vehicles. Yep. So your grab tanks, which I'm a huge fan of and was very successful with, they are even more efficient and silly now.
Indeed. So just to TLDR this, every vehicle gets +2 OC. Vehicles below starting strength reroll hit rolls of 1. Vehicles below half strength reroll hit rolls of 1 and wound rolls of 1. And all walkers get +2 move and +1 advance and charge. Is that correct?
Yep, that is correct. And then you get to make some you can turn some dreadnoughts into characters so that they can hold enhancements.
And the first of those enhancements is what, mate?
Yes, so I'll just run through these real quick. There are 4, as there are in everyone. It's Adamantine Talisman. This one is super sweet. It's an Adeptus Custodes model only. Improve the attacks, strength, and damage characteristic of melee weapons by 1. Super
25 points?
25 points, yep. Super good on that one. Next one is also 25 points. It is an Adeptus Custodes model. The bearer has a 5+ feel no pain. Once again, super good. Then we have Honored Fallen. It's an aura. It's 15 points. It's an Adeptus Custodes vehicle model only. While a friendly Adeptus Custodes infantry or Adeptus Custodes mounted unit is within 6 inches of the bearer, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, reroll a hit roll of 1. And then the last one here is, I'm going to butcher this. We're going to go with Veteran of the Kata Fractoi. We'll go with that. It's 10 points. It's an Adeptus Custodes infantry or an Adeptus Custodes mounted model only. In your movement phase, select one Adeptus Custodes vehicle or Adeptus Custodes mounted unit within 6 inches of the bearer until the start of your next command phase. That unit is eligible to shoot in a turn in which it fell back.
Ironstorm.
Yes,
is the first thing that came to mind. That's the quintessential Ironstorm. Point at something in your command phase. Oh well, this is in your movement phase actually, so you get to move towards them. Before they do their goodness. But of these 4, which are the bangers? Of course, you talk about something like a Telemon that is toughness 10 with a 2 up, 4 up, 12 wounds, and giving that 5 up feel no pain base seems like a pretty saucy deal because, of course, we can have 2 walkers here that can take enhancements. But what are the bangers here? What are your winners?
So you hit it pretty much on the head. The first one is throwing that 5 up feel no pain on a Telemon is insane. He just has enough damage breakpoints that he basically becomes a super warden like the entire game. which is just super awesome. So putting that on a Telemon, that's a big winner. And the talisman, the adamantine talisman, the one that gives the strength, damage, and attacks, I've actually found that is just an Adeptus Custodes model, and you can put that on a Blade champion.
Correct.
And it makes his profiles go from already super good to holy crap, what is that?
Because you got the 3 damage dev wound one, don't you?
So it goes to 4 damage dev wound.
Yes, and the strength is actually a weird breakpoint on that profile because it is strength 6, isn't it?
Yep, so it's 6 to 7. Actually,
6 to 7. Yeah, 3 to 4 AP, which is real cute as well.
It doesn't do the AP. It's still it's attacks.
Apologies.
Yep, you're good. You're good. So it's actually all the right breakpoints. So it makes his sweep profile 10 attacks at 612 as well.
Very nice.
And then it makes his precision profile 823. So
I mean, where are the AC/DC units now? Bring them back. We can solve this problem now.
Yes, that is true. This Blade champion and this detachment when he gets the talisman is insane.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I mean, I've never done it, but if you just roll really hot, you sometimes just have enough damage from one Blade champion to kill a knight.
Honored Fallen, how do you feel about that? Of course, a lot of time hitting on 2s and then rerolling 1s is 100% or more than 100%, especially if you're getting the right katars or whatever. Because of course you can still have lethal or sustained, right, on demand.
Yes, you still have that with both the dreadnoughts and the infantry and everything. So Honored Fallen is a build around one. I'm of the opinion it's probably one you leave on the shelf, and there's a couple of reasons why.
Interesting.
Yeah, I feel like with this detachment, you want to be maximizing the detachment rule, which means you're taking as many Custodes vehicles as possible. And what Honored Fallen wants you to do is to take like one vehicle and then play like normal Custodes models around it. And I feel like if you're playing a normal Custodes list where you have like lots of infantry, some bikes, some tanks, whatever, good split, you probably want to be in Talons still.
Yep.
But if you're taking this, you want to really, really like lean into so I don't know if we'll go over it. The list I'm currently playing is 6 dreadnoughts, which is not cheap in Custodes, but we will
definitely be going over that in part 2, and you'll be giving us your TLDR of how that's going to play and your thinking behind it. I see the last one as being. Well, in this list, I see the last one as being a bit superfluous. You're not playing this list, I don't believe, plays the sit back and shoot game. I mean, that would make sense if you're playing Triple Caladius or something like that. But I don't think that's what this list is doing, is it?
No, this list is insanely good at denying primary, just walking at Dreadnought. So we'll get to the very, very relevant stratagems at the bottom here in a minute. But being able to just shotgun a Dreadnought like 24 inches across the board and then I'm OC5 and I'm going to punch you now is just insanely efficient at denying primary and makes your opponent play around that the whole game. This list just dominates primary against pretty much every army.
So your auto takes are pretty much the first 2. Yep. They're both 25 points, so you're starting at a 1950 list, give or take.
Yes.
But funny enough, like Custodes list construction sits at so many weird points levels. Like I've seen good Custodes lists that play like 1975, 1980. They never can quite fit that 2000, get to those 2000 points. Has actually been something that's frustrating for you?
Yeah, so it's been a little awkward trying to fit in every piece that I want. The list I've kind of landed on is just trimming a little bit of the scoring for maximum amounts of pain, because I think that's what this detachment does really well. But it's always like you're kind of like 15 to 20 points off in any direction how you do it. So you are right that like it's a little awkward.
All right, first of the stratagems, flawless construction, 1 CP. It's in your opponent's shooting phase or the fight phase, just after one of your units has been selected as the target, but that unit has to be a vehicle. Until the end of the phase, each time an attack targets a model in your unit, if the strength characteristic is greater, -1 from the wound roll. So if the strength is greater than the toughness. 1 CP, -1 to wound, because of course you're never going to use this if it isn't just -1 to wound. And most of your toughnesses sit around the 9 to 10 breakpoint. So the las cannon profile is the one you're really hunting here. To negate, but 1 CP, -1 to wound. Oof, very nice, mate.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I was talking about that Telemon earlier, he is just the super warden.
Yeah. So yeah, potentially hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, into a 2+, 4+, 5+. Yikes.
With -1 damage, yes.
Yes, -1 damage built in. What's the next stratagem?
So next stratagem here is Emperor's Vengeance. It's one Adeptus Custodes unit from your army that was selected as the target of one or more of the attacking unit's attacks. This is fight phase only. So it's a fight on death, just as the TLDR. It's until the end of the phase. Each time a model in your unit is destroyed, if that model has not fought this phase, roll a d6, adding 1 to the result if your unit has the Walker keyword. On a 4+, do not remove it from play. The destroyed model can fight after the attacking unit has finished making its attacks. When doing so, it is assumed to have 1 wound remaining and is then removed from play.
So technically, this could be used on one of the killer spear dreadnoughts and have 5 attacks at strength 12 -2 d6 +1 damage, and of course you'd still get your katars as well. So you'd still have lance or lethal or sustained. So
yes, you would.
Pretty good 1 CP, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty fine. I mean, the other thing is because it's assumed to have 1, you get your rerolling 1s to hit and wound as well.
Correct.
So
Correct.
It's just all the synergy layering, and you're maximizing your dreadnoughts. It's super cool.
I think it's excellent for 1 CP. Next one is Wrathful Advance. This is 1 CP. It's in your fight phase. Just after an Adeptus Custodes unit from your army piles in, you can pile in D3 +3 instead of 3. Pretty good. It's a bit bummer that there's a couple of these versions of this strat that are coming in that lets you pile in and consolidate with that same buff, but this is still pretty sexy, isn't it?
Yeah, so this is a little corner case. You probably won't use it every game, but the threat of it makes your opponent respect it. The other thing, it's like the spicy play you can set up with it. I did this in a practice game the other day, is you can charge a unit that's super low health.
Tank shock.
Yep, exactly. Tank shock, pile in, and slingshot through them.
Yeah.
And that's the spice.
Very nice, very nice. What's up next?
All right, next here we have one word, and it's very cool. It's unstoppable. It's all you need to know. It says start of your moving phase. This is to be mindful of the timing on this one, unfortunately. It is not the good timing like the Knights. So it's 1 Adeptus Custodes vehicle or mounted unit from your army. Until the end of the phase, models in your unit can move horizontally through models and terrain features.
Hot. So hot. And you're right, it is the awkward timing. It is the start of your movement phase, so you flag it in its entirety to your opponent, and you do have some very big bases, especially on the Telemon, so your opponent will have more ability to deny this and stop this than they do with some other variants, but still absolute gas, right? Especially with +2 move, so pretty much all your dreadnoughts are moving 8 minimum, the Telemon's moving 10.
Mm-hmm. And then you're moving through terrain and you're moving through models. Yep. And then we'll get to this next one here in a second. But oh man, can the Telemon just put his track shoes on and just absolutely sprint across the board?
Well, watching your Worlds games, a lot of the time you were pretty much only playing your Caladiuses from turn 3 onwards. Like you would just sit there and do nothing with them for turn 1 or turn 2, maybe killing stuff that comes in for deep striking or behind enemy linesing. And then on turn 2 or turn 3, you would punch those guys out. This is going through walls with a Caladius seems like it's at times even better than a dreadnought.
Oh, couldn't agree more. Absolutely. I mean, the main thing with once you have access to the stratagems, it's half the battle. So as soon as you have access to like advance and shoot, or you have in this case move through walls, your opponent has to respect it. So then they'll measure out, okay, if he moves through a wall here, where can he shoot me? That threat range is so much more than just it would be normally, that it just buys you so much breathing room with this army.
Yeah. All right. Relentless Persecution. 1 CP. Your movement phase just after an Adeptus Custodes vehicle from your army advances. That vehicle, at the end of the turn, your unit is eligible to shoot in a turn in which it advanced. If your unit has the Walker keyword, it can charge in a turn in which it advanced instead. Oh my. That's the gas.
Yep, it's literally the gas, and that's how you can make a Telemon run like 30 inches across the board and just slam something.
Yeah, because of course all the walkers have +1 advance, +1 charge. If you guys forgot at home, so my lord. So you can go 12 plus your max and advance, so you go 7. So you just go 19 and declare a charge with +1 to the charge.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yep. And 1 CP. If they try to stop you, you just go through all the walls and all the models as well.
Exactly.
This is brilliant.
Yep, it's a really nice combination. It's you Kool-Aid through the wall, you sprint at them, and then you gun them down on the way in and smack them with some fists. It's awesome.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, because you can still shoot, right?
Yep.
It's instead.
No, it's eligible to shoot and declare a charge in a turn. So you get to shoot and charge with the dreadnoughts.
Eligible to shoot in a turn in which it advanced. If your unit has the Walker keyword until the end of the turn, your unit will be eligible to shoot and declare a charge. Okay, of course. Yeah, yes. You can do both. So the vehicles can just advance and shoot.
Yep.
Which is still nice.
Yeah,
And then everything else, yeah.
Yeah, once again, grab tanks that threaten 16, super sick. And once again, this one's the good timing, so it's after you've rolled the dice.
Correct. Yep. So you get full information before you decide if you're gonna go for it or not.
Yep.
And what's the last one?
Last one here is Punishment Inescapable. It's your shooting phase. One Adeptus Custodes unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot this phase. Until the end of the phase, ranged weapons equipped by models in your unit have the Ignores cover ability. And until the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit makes an attack, you can ignore any or all modifiers to that unit's ballistic skill or modifiers to the hit roll.
Now, that's really interesting because there is a lot of Custodes weapons that look really impressive, but end up having like AP1, AP2 for unknown reasons. I'm looking at the Telemon's Accelerator Culverin right now, which is 4 shots at strength 9, only AP1, but 3 damage. Like, it's actually a bad battle cannon, but giving it ignores cover, especially in the new world where Armor Contempt isn't something you can just have all the time, that actually starts to look pretty saucy.
Yeah, it's basically also you can blank smoke plays before they make them. So grab tanks are super efficient, especially when they have access to reroll ones at just deking a tank and winning shootouts. Sometimes the math on if you smoke into a grab tank, it makes the math so much worse. But being able to offensively say your smoke is useless and I'm also ignoring cover regardless, just is super nice to win in shootouts.
Yeah, and this looks to me, I mean, no offense to pretty much all the guns on the dreadnoughts, none of them really compare to using this on the Caladius, right?
Oh yeah, I mean absolutely. I mean, sometimes you'll use it on a Telemon to like clear infantry, just because you have so many shots. But most of the times I've used this, it's grab tank 40 inches away shooting a tank that can smoke. And then I'm saying, here's no smoke, and I'm going to roll my super efficient guns into you.
Does this make the alternative gun on the... Because I've only ever seen the heavy blaze cannon pretty much on the Caladiuses. Does this make the other gun hold any water?
I wish. I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, AP1 still... Even forces you to use the strat for the gun to be okay. And even then, AP1 ignore cover. Sometimes they're just in the open, and then your AP1, like Marines, are taking 4-ups. Like, it's not it.
Yeah. I mean, 8 shots, though, with twin linked, but still, it's not it. I mean, the other one's twin linked also. It's really funny that they just, like, they wrote those 2 guns next to each other, and they're like, even thinking that anyone was going to take the accelerator cannon ever, because they're heavy blaze.
I don't know how many shots the accelerator cannon would have to be it'd be like 16 or something stupid.
Yeah, correct. Just so that people at home. So the heavy blaze cannon, which is the one that everyone takes, is a las cannon profile with 1 more damage, D6 plus 2 instead of D6 plus 1, with 4 shots that are twin linked, and of course the Caladius ability to be lethals against monsters and vehicles. And the accelerator cannon is rapid fire 4 at 48 inches, so 24 inches you'll get 8 shots, but it's only 10-1-3. So like I said, it's another battle cannon. And I mean, what do guard have to do to make battle cannons good? Battle cannons have to have built-in rerolls, and they have to have like a mortar, 2 CP, and an exterminator or a hellhound to make that good.
Absolutely.
No.
Yeah, I'm out. I'm out on that one, Chief.
No, we tried, guys. Just you all know we tried. All right, so that is actually the end of this detachment. So what I do find interesting is that there's no stratagem that is just a flat line damage increase. It's all either defensive or activating, like as in making them do something special, like extra piling, go through walls, advance and shoot, advance and charge. Do you find that there's any lack for damage in this build?
Probably not. There are some profiles like maximum horde, if like someone puts 200 models on a table or something crazy, that you just won't have enough to get through it. But because the detachment rule makes your stuff so efficient, you may have a super small number of attacks, but they're just so efficiently pointed and like you just convert almost everything that I have not found a damage issue yet.
Beautiful. Because that was my first concern when I read through this. I was like, because I got these relatively early because naturally I'm on the NDAs and I get things a bit early. And I was looking at it, I'm like, because ACDC was still something that was in my head at the time. And there were still some armies out there that I thought were going to just be wielding big old hordes of people, and we still might see, especially big units of boys come back, maybe, who knows? But yeah, I thought this list might, funnily enough, have a horde issue. But I'm happy to hear you haven't found that to be the case.
I have not. The other thing that definitely contributes to that is my list. I'm playing 3 Telemons, and they all at least have one of the guns. It's like 65 shots on average between them.
Yeah, wow. Okay, that is really, really saucy. All right, my man. Rating system time. You as a Custodes player, and speaking on behalf of all Custodes players, how happy are you with this detachment?
On a scale of 1 to what?
1 to 10. 10 being this is the best thing we've ever had. This is the new sliced bread, and 1 being oh my god, why did they bother?
I'd probably say a solid 8.
Me too.
It's not like the perfect detachment where like there's a little bit of awkwardness here and there, but like it gives you an entire new archetype. They've done it well. I think it's meta viable, so I can't really complain too much. Obviously, a 10 would be like something insanely broken. I don't think it's like the best army in the game, but I also think you'll be seeing it at quite a few good tables.
I think I'm 1 more than you. I think a 9 for me out of this, 9 out of 10. It's like 1 thing away. I mean, I think a 10 would mean this is one of the best attachments in the game, and you're going to see this at top tables and whatever. So I can't give it a 10. But the fact that it gives Custodes players a way to play with their army that they did not have before. There was no way to play a respectable dreadnought archetype build and not be a joke. And this has given people that. So people have a brand new way to play their army, which is the exact opposite of what they were playing before, which was essentially the only vehicles was the 1 to 2 Caladiuses you would take, and then it's infantry. And this is flipped on its head completely. Yep. In addition, I actually think this is going to be a lot of fun. It's not busted and broken. Like, it's still just a bunch of like walkers. So, you know, there are armies that will just look at this and lol. The first thing that comes to mind is that, like, if this ever became a big problem, Votan players take 2 units of Thunderkin in the open and just fight up Overwatch your Telemons to death.
Yeah, that'd be rough. That'd be rough.
It would be rough. So there's definitely meta things that you can do. So it's not busted in that way. Like, it's not so strong people can't beat it, but it's strong enough to be exciting, interesting, and it's thematic as well. And thank God they go through walls. Holy crap.
Yes, that's like probably the biggest thing that the detachment gives you. It's that plus the movement bonus. It fixes the issue with dreads.
How funny would it be if they gave you the movement bonus but not the go through walls, and you're like, the movement bonus doesn't mean anything. I got to go around anyway. I'm movement 8. Whoop-de-doo. Cool.
Yeah, that would have been move through walls is like you should be using that stratagem probably 2 to 4 times a game.
Well, I'm going to talk to you about that in part 2, especially because I want to know what your plans are for CP management with this list. Because I'm looking at this list and I'm like, I have 3 CP I want to spend every turn, and that's not possible. That's not possible. So I'm curious on your thinking and your thoughts behind that. But competitively, where would you have Custodes in a competitive tier list right now? So D tier being the worst, S tier being the best. And then where would you have this detachment for Custodes?
So I would probably put this in Talons as about the same in terms of meta viability. Like I said, it's probably about the same. Jib Matrix is a little different. Like, you have different harder matchups, different better matchups. Yep. That being said, maybe I'm a little too hot on Custodes right now. I'd put them probably bottom of A, top of B. Like, I'm like pretty optimistic about them.
I'm pretty optimistic as well. I have them as possibly one of the best lists in best armies in B tier, and it sounds like you're about the same. I don't think they quite make the A tier cut for me, but I think that they are one of the tippy tops of B tier, and I think this is sitting right next to Talons. And I pretty much just think your meta and the missions you play and the terrains you play will inform you which one is better on the day.
Absolutely. I mean, it's kind of like a coin flip. Like, Talons has better matchups against.
Like, if I was playing WTC, and I know that the only way my army gets to do anything is by me going through walls because there's so many walls. This army gets worse, Talons gets better, and vice versa. Like, if you're playing on UKTC or GW, I think this gets a little bit better because you can still hide the best portions of your army, and then they just go through walls at will, and there's nowhere near as many walls for them to go through. So there are actual activations you can get without having to spend the CP. And that's my fear on WTC more than anything else, that you don't get to use your army unless you spend a CP. And that's just rough.
Yes, that can be rough. There are definitely ways to mitigate it, and in both list design and in execution. But that is like the biggest weakness of the army, is that like they really struggle on WTC because you're still dreadnoughts walking through very tiny holes.
Exactly right. All right, my man, that's going to wrap us up for this part one and finish us off for the episode for this week. Hopefully you've enjoyed this third week of Grotmas from your friends at AOWdu, none of that being literally just me. But I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas. Hope you all have a beautiful New Year's, which is coming up soon. We're recording this on the 30th of December for my beautiful self, 29th for all you people living in the past. Folger Pyles.
Yeah,
and dude, it's been my great pleasure to have you on. I'm really hopeful to have you on for some more Custodes content in the near future. And dude, good luck at LVO. Anybody you want to shout out or anything you want to mention or plug before we tune out?
I cannot think of anything. Shout out to all the Custodes players who have suffered. We are going to bring it back, boys. It's coming home.
Love it. Love it. On that note, we're out of here. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Stay tuned for a song from my brother's band and look after each other. Have a merry New Year. Whatever. See, you remember what I said about closing out shows?
Yeah.
We're out of here.
Rough.
See you later.
See ya.
It's a conversation I've had with myself before. You rock bottom, cut open, endured. Let some demons in, learn to live with them. The cycle starts again, self-doubt creeping in.